Day of DLD. I hope you're enjoying it and having fun. I'm Tal. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Evolero, which you might have experienced when you registered to the event. We're an Israeli startup. Very happy to be involved with DLD. This is the event's wall. You're all featured in it if you're tweeting, if you're uploading pictures, so please tweet away, upload pictures, use the hashtag DLDTelAviv. We want all of you to be part of the online and the offline experience. Without further ado, we're going to start with our first session. It's going to deal with non-stop investment, which you will discover now the best of this title's implications and what they're going to discuss. Our host today is Amir Mizroch. He's from the Wall Street Journal, technology news editor for Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. At the Wall Street Journal, as I said. Yesterday, he tweeted, with the hostilities in Gaza over, Tel Aviv turns to tech and partying with DLD Tel Aviv. So, great tweet. Happy to have you here. Next one up is Mrs. Liz Wald. Sorry, one second. Liz is the VP of International at Indiegogo, the world's largest global crowdfunding platform. Indiegogo empowers people anywhere, anytime to fund what matters to them, creative, cause-related, or entrepreneurial. Since launching, Indiegogo has helped people create campaigns in every country around the world, and is now distributing millions of dollars across cross-platform every week. Welcome, Liz. We have Peter Jungen here. Peter is the co-founder of or investor in numerous startups in Europe and in the USA, including Idealo Internet, GmbH, the leading German prize comparison shopping platform in Berlin. He's a partner of the Halo Fund, Palo Alto. We have Vered Kirshner from PwC Israel. She's a tax partner at PwC since 1999. She has extensive experience in providing tax services and ongoing tax support to the Israeli and foreign corporations operating in Israel, including high-tech companies, venture capital funds, multinational companies, and more. Welcome, Amit Shafrir. Amit is the co-founder and CEO of Safe Aging, providing technology allowing for seniors to live longer in their homes. Amit has vast experience in both consumer internet and enterprise software, having managed some of the internet's most powerful brands, such as ICQ, Netscape Security Solutions, and WinMap. And last and certainly not least is Alexander Turkot. He's the founder and managing partner of Maxfield Capital Partners, venture fund with focus on early-stage IT and internet projects. You're welcome to start your panel.
Thank you, Tal. Hi, everyone. I'm Amir, tech editor at the Wall Street Journal in Europe, Middle East, and Africa. So Tal has already introduced everyone, but I think what we're going to do is I'll just ask everyone to give us a very brief overview of what they do, what's on their desk at the moment, after which I'll ask Amit to give us his view on the theme of this panel, which is non-stop investments, the ecosystem of investments, everything from family and friend all the way to fund of funds. What we're going to do after that is I'll come to the audience to ask for kind of a fictional company. We'll set up just a very our own kind of startup right here. Ask you for an idea, for a market, for a product, for an app. So keep that in mind and start thinking of ideas. And what we're going to do is go through the panel, starting with Peter, having a look at where our company that we've just created should start looking for funding. We'll even get some kind of tax advice, and hopefully that'll give us some practical information. I think that after that we'll talk a little bit more about what's happening in Europe. Peter and Alex know quite a lot about that, and I'm particularly interested in Indiegogo and things that are happening in this area. I think we'll talk for about 45 minutes, and then if there's any questions, we'll take it from there. So please, Peter, give us just a few moments. Tell us what it is that you do on a day-to-day basis. A little bit about your company, please.
Well, thank you. My name is Peter Jungen. We do angel investing in the United States and in Europe. Present more in the US, actually, than in Europe, although we are based in Europe. That has a lot to do with the ecosystem, and we may get into that later on. Second is, I became an angel after another career in industry, where I was the CEO of one of the largest civil engineering groups in Germany.
What kind of angel are you?
Well, I'm a combination of sometimes a lead angel. Some people would call it an archangel even.
An archangel.
Having co-founded with the German government Business Angel Network Deutschland, and being a co-founder and a former president of IBAN, the European Business Angel Network, and at present also personally a member of the New York Angels, right. And a sort of a distant member of the Israel Committee of the New York Angels.
Thank you. Indiegogo, Liz.
Hi, so Liz Wald. I lead our global business at Indiegogo. So Indiegogo is a rewards-based crowdfunding site, which means we don't take equity, we don't do debt, we don't do any peer-to-peer. It is peer-to-peer, but you make a contribution, you get something in return. That something might be an amazing new motorcycle helmet, or it might be a thank you on Twitter. There's a big range of what you might get back. What we've seen over the last couple of years, Indiegogo funds things, everything from nonprofits and personal causes to creative endeavors in film and music and books and whatnot. And of course, the tech space, design, technology, and hardware, which is something many people here are involved in. And what we've seen over the last couple of years, you know, we saw 3D printing, we saw activity trackers, we saw all kinds of things like that. Now we're seeing more Internet of Things and very cool new design products, things that people can bring to market with funding that they get from the crowd, but otherwise probably wouldn't have the ability to fund it up front.
You've just opened an office in Israel. You've hired a manager here?
Yes, so we've got people on the ground in the UK, Canada, Australia, Germany, and now Israel. And we've hired a guy named Oren. I say his last name wrong every time. I say Semanian. You guys probably know him better than I do already. But Oren started StarTow here, and he's very much part of the entrepreneurial community in Israel. And we brought him on board exactly to help build the ecosystem, bring people knowledge about crowdfunding, and then hopefully bring their projects to Indiegogo.
Cool. Just before I get to Alex, I just want to apologize that it seems like I have my back to the folks here. If that's okay with you, fine. If not, you're happy to.
There's free money over here.
There's money over there. Alex Turkot, founder and CEO of Maxfield, and you're owner of the Maxfield. Tell us a bit about what you do.
Maxfield is relatively new, year and a half. We started our operations about a year and a half. It's a venture fund focused on early stages in information technologies companies with 3 geographies in focus. It's Eastern Europe, Russia, Ukraine, Baltic countries, Israel, and United States. So that's about it. I have mostly engineering background. I spent many years with IBM and other technological companies. So I'm quite new in the venture
It's funny
business.
because you don't look like an engineer.
Well, I never looked.
Never mind.
The question should be, so how do I look?
So how does an engineer look? You know, that's actually, you know what, I'll stop you there. You were an engineer by training, and you've been an engineer for 25 years.
More or less.
Right. How vastly different is the content that you're working with now from when you started? Or is it pretty much...
It is definitely different. And again, I didn't choose to be an investor. It was like, a nature of my career, because I spent a couple of years as executive director for IT cluster for a very large Russian project called Skolkovo Foundation. And I was invited as an engineer, and within 2 years I became almost, like government employee. Right. So then I quit. Then I decided that there is no other way but to go and become an investor, like a venture fund.
Interesting, thank you. Amit, tell us what you're up to these days.
Good morning. My name is Amit. I have 30 years of experience doing various things in the technology space. Started in enterprise software many years ago, spent many years with Amdocs, mostly in North America with telecoms. And then I spent many years with AOL doing a variety of things, anything from running ICQ to Winamp to AOL Music, anything that reached masses and masses of consumers at a time where getting to 100 million users was actually hard as opposed to today. It led me to do a variety of companies that I started post AOL. I started many companies, I shut down many companies. I spent a few years running a company called Badu, which is a social network for social discovery, a very large European-based company. And most recently, I've started a couple companies in the senior care technology space, doing kind of Internet of Things, ultra-low powered Wi-Fi sensors that you put in seniors' home that can automatically detect if the senior is having some issues and can alert someone for help. And I've also been recently involved with a lot of Russian-based consumer technology companies. Most recently had some involvement with the announcement yesterday of Mail.ru acquiring the rest of VKontakte, which is a Russian Facebook. That's me in a nutshell.
Amit, it's interesting to me that you're involved in the older kind of generation, our grandparents. Do you have any kind of idea and sense of how long or how valuable this kind of technology is to those kind of people? Because we don't really talk about the elderly when we talk about tech, right?
Well, it's not very sexy. It's not very alluring. But if you think about it, the number of seniors in the U.S. or in the world is growing. There are 10,000 people retiring in the U.S. every day. It's the generation, the post-World War II generation that are retiring. There is no infrastructure. There is no government money. There is no Social Security. There is no Medicare. There's nothing there to pay for these people living longer. These people are, you said grandparents, in my case maybe parents. And so technology is the only thing that will allow people to live longer, safer, that is going to be affordable and it's going to be manageable. So the only thing that you can figure out is how to scale this. I decided 5 years ago that I'm going to go into that space, not knowing exactly what we'll do, but just knowing that this is a huge, right. In the US, this is a $150 billion market right now, and it's growing as seniors are growing. So
yeah, so we should keep that in mind if you're thinking about a fictional type of company, a startup or products. Vered from PwC Israel, what's up these days?
So I'm a tax partner at PwC Israel. PwC is the largest accounting firm in the world, dealing also with consulting and tax. And I was asked here, do we really work with the startup industry in Israel, talking about such a large company? And the answer is yes. We're working with many, many startups. We're actually view ourselves as assisting them growing, starting from very small and getting into the largest companies that you can think of. Mobileye is one example, Mellanox is another example, and we're dealing with the issues all along the way, starting with the first fundraising and ending up with the IPOs.
Are there any tax breaks in Israel for young companies, entrepreneurs?
Israel is actually trying to assist those foreign investors, giving them tax exemptions on investments in Israel. assisting with the law for encouragement, which allows very reduced tax rates relatively if you're talking about US companies. So there is a huge difference between being an Israeli company paying between 0 and 9% tax relatively to a US corporation that would end up paying 40% tax.
Oh, that's quite a lot. Okay, Amit, the headline of this panel is non-stop investments, and in our emails and chats, we're all kind of trying to figure out what that meant. And we spoke about an ecosystem that starts from, friends, family, all the way up to funds of funds and all that. Can you just give us a brief overview of the kind of options that an entrepreneur has these days, all the way from the beginning to the top?
Okay, so again, I will give the perspective of an entrepreneur, and I will try to give some comparisons as to the past, whenever that is, and the current world. So in the past, basically an entrepreneur who started, I would say, in the consumer internet space, they would have, generally speaking, 3 levels of funding that they would go. They would start with the traditional friends and family, which would help them raise what, let's say, a decade ago would be required to start a consumer internet company, probably $100,000 that would be raised from friends and families. Then they would go to angels, which weren't that many, for a few $100,000, and then they would go to the world of traditional VCs, and they'd raise the rest of the funds. The shifts that have happened, and in today's world, a couple of things have happened simultaneously. One is that the cost for starting a consumer internet or consumer mobile company have gone drastically low, to the point of almost 0. You can start a company, if you know what you're doing, you can start a company without even buying a server, let's call it. You have your laptop and you have interconnectivity. Yossi always says you also have to have a chair and a desk. But I think that's not a requirement. If you see young people today, they'll sit on the couch, on the floor. That's all you need. So that's, with $2,000 of funding, you're up and running. And you can get much further in your process without starting to tap into the friends and family, et cetera. But the thing that has been added to this ecosystem over the past 3 or 4 years, a variety of crowdfunding possibilities. And I'm not sure if people here are familiar with the concept of crowdfunding, so I'll try to give just a few examples.
We'll get to that with Liz.
Right, but Liz is a one. Indiegogo is one mechanism. There is a variety of things, variety of possibilities. Anything which I think is very interesting from an investment perspective. There is now the ability to crowdsource investors, not just the small investors who would put $10, $20, $200 into a large crowdfunding campaign, but things like AngelList, if people are familiar, where basically, if before an angel would put $50,000 or $100,000, they can now create a little consortium around themselves with people who have never invested a dime in their life and don't know a thing about the industry, but happen to have some money, maybe $10,000, maybe $20,000, and they can huddle around an angel investor, and that angel investor, all of a sudden, instead of being able to put in $50,000, can now control $200,000 or $300,000 or $500,000. And 2 things happen here. One is a lot of people who have never invested are putting money into the ecosystem, and a lot of people who invested small amounts all of a sudden are investing 10 times what they used to invest per investment. This type of kind of crowdfunding has a lot of effects to it, and we can go over more, we can dig deeper.